Well, I'm not sure what just happened. Technology is a bitch. I suppose that we'll just pick up where I left. Um, Probably just lost everyone. That's unfortunate. I'll wait till I see if anyone joins. I've been having computer issues lately. My internet connection is whack. Um, so, hi guys. I lost you all. I'm sad now. Trying to make these videos so I can put them up on YouTube. And very weird. Well, I'm gonna take a minute and look up Delta 8 THC. How do you even get Delta 8 THC? How is this a thing you can get? A degraded. What the hell? Well, it is what it is, I guess. All right, let me see if I can determine if anyone's here. Doesn't look like anyone's here. It's always a crapshoot. Hey, there I am. Oh, it's April. Hi. Oh goodness, I have someone here. I'm just out in space, just floating. It's nice to see you. Pharmaceutical. I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but it looks like Delta 8 is. I'm sure it's probably you. I mean, I don't even know what the Delta stands for. That's how ignorant about this stuff I am. I imagine it is, if it's a degraded form of Delta 9, then you probably break a bond and you create Delta 8 THC. I've never tried it, I've never seen it. Honestly, I've never even discussed it before. And so, very interesting to me. The concept is very interesting. I'm glad that Clay from Evolution Magazine brought that up. Um, uh, 6 viewers, yay! We're back. Oh, that was scary. It was a terrible, terrible, dark time when I left. Um, I don't know. I think there's something wrong. I keep checking with AT&T about my gateway to the internet or whatever, and it says it doesn't work at all. Yet I still get like Facebook and Gmail and all that. I don't know what the hell's going on. I hate calling those people. I guess I should if I'm gonna try to run a live video show from here. I don't know. Um, so anyway, Delta 8 THC. Very, very. I'm very excited. I got something to look into tonight. That's something that for me, I love learning. That's the best thing about cannabis. That's the best thing about this entire world, is that there's always more to learn. There's always more that we can learn from each other. Um, I probably get the snippiest with people in the cannabis world when they are just when I try to present information to them and they just like, nope, that's not the way it works. And it's like, well, I mean, it could. I don't know. I'm that way. I like to learn. I like to talk to other people. Even though I sound like I think I know it all, I don't. I don't know it all. There's so much I don't know. There's so much to learn. Um, and so tonight's a great example. Delta 8 THC, new thing. Looks like head shops. It's like with Kratom. There was Delta 8 THC. So guess they're skirting the law and selling it like the Chinese reformulating ecstasy or whatever and sending a new form like every 6 months to the United States. Like, oh no, this isn't ecstasy. This is Bextasy. It's completely different. But very interesting. If people are getting medical benefits from this, is something I think we should look into. I'm curious how they're even getting it, because you can't up. I don't think you can up um, charge CBD into Delta 8. So you're going to have to take something that has Delta 9 and degrade it, which is interesting. I guess degraded Delta 9 THC is more valuable if you can sell it at the corner store than a bunch of weed sitting around that you can't sell because it's illegal. I don't know. I guess that's the deal. Um, uh, have I answered all of Steven's questions? Okay, yeah. What do you do with materials like input materials for bubble hash after they've been washed? Can we make decent edibles out of that? What should we do with our stuff that we commonly throw away? What's not worth the trouble, etc.? Like roaches from joints. Anything to do besides smoke them? Um, roaches are already decarboxylated generally if you get it down small enough because it got hot from smoking it. So that is an excellent source of edibles. Not super sure. Maybe like you dedicate a coffee grinder to your roaches and you stack them up, and then every once in a while you coffee grind that shit and put it in some cookies. You might be surprised at how well that works. Bubble hash. Uh, I think that if you wash it thoroughly and you get most of the trichomes off of it, you can definitely eat that, but you're gonna not you're gonna have to use a lot to really feel much effect from it. But why would you throw it away when you could make it into, I don't know, banana bread or something? I have a friend that used to just take uh, weed buds, flowers, leaves, whatever, dry it out really well, grind it up like that in a coffee grinder, and then she would substitute flour in some of her recipes. So it'd be like, instead of 2 cups of flour, she would use 1.5 cups of flour and a half cup of ground cannabis. And her stuff was delicious, and it was effective. It was definitely effective. So you can do some substituting of dried cannabis leaves and such. Um, but again, what are you trying to get out of it? Maybe it's better going into a compost pile. Maybe it's better feeding your next round of plants. Um, I guess it really depends on how hard pressed you are for obtaining cannabis, how small your yields are when you crop. It's like the buffalo. You probably can use every single little bit of it down to you know, the dust at the bottom of the dust at the bottom of the dust. But do you have the time and energy to do that? So that would be the answer there. So we talked about testing agencies earlier. We talked a little bit about THC and what it is. We've been talking a little bit about Delta and 8 THC. Um, I'm now looking at I thought that I had a list next to me of topics to talk, and it appears that it is rearrange truck, clean off it. That is my to-do list. That's amazing. Just amazing. Um, I thrive on your questions. I thrive on your curiosity and interests. I know that April is involved with some of the nurses around Kansas City. I've talked to them a little. Sort of got off that. I need to get back to talking to them. The medical cannabis is super important, and it's super crucial. But I think something that we all should sort of consider is that there's nothing wrong with recreational cannabis. There's nothing inherently better about medical cannabis. This is going to be controversial. There's nothing inherently better about medical cannabis than recreational cannabis, because if you use recreational cannabis to make your life better or to make yourself feel better, then it is medicinal. All cannabis use is medicinal, whether or not it is specifically for a backache or for glaucoma or for cancer. Maybe the medical condition is more of a psychological medical condition where you are you're using the cannabis because it makes your day better. To me, that's medicinal. So all cannabis use is medicinal. But since we talk about it so often as recreational or medicinal, um, there there's really the only let's talk about opioids. Like, people like use opioids, and some people who have pain issues use opioids because it makes their pain go away, but it also makes them feel better. Is that recreational use of opioids? Recreational use of opioids, we would say, is like heroin or whatever. But really, the use of the medicinal opioid can also have a recreational edge. Like, well, my back hurts and I'm about to watch a movie. I'm definitely taking a pain pill right now because it's going to make the movie a little better. Everything's going to feel a little better. It's this black and white thinking that things have to be one thing or another. It has to be, if it's recreational, if you don't have a doctor's uh, you know uh, prescription for it, or it's medical if you do have a doctor's prescription for it. Cannabis is bigger than that. Cannabis is way bigger, way more all encompassing than putting it into a little cubby hole and sealing it up. So I think that we need to think about that and think about the fact that um, cannabis access should be universal. It should be between a person and themselves, if it's recreational or medical or whatever it is. Everyone should be able to consume it without any kind of limits on that consumption, because people need to decide for themselves. And the one thing I've noticed over 30 years of smoking or consuming cannabis is that when people are done with cannabis, they quit. And the people who do go down the rabbit hole with cannabis and use it as a crutch in their life to make excuses for failure, or make excuses for not excelling, or make excuses in general, are the type of people that are going to do that for something else. They're searching for a reason to make excuses to not deal with their life, and that's not cannabis's fault. That's an individual shortcoming, and that's okay too. That might be where that person needed to be for a few years in their life. But this isn't like alcohol, where people are like, I've been quitting on and off for 10 years. I have to go to meetings. I keep screwing up, blah blah blah. When people decide to quit cannabis, they just walk away from it. um, Sometimes I think, if you're constantly hanging out with people that are smoking, it's harder because it's such a social situation. But I've known so many people that I haven't seen for several years that I used to smoke heavily with or whatever, and now I see them and they're like, yeah, I just don't do it anymore. I don't really smoke anymore. It's not working for me. It wasn't working. Made me paranoid. Made me feel weird. This, and that. And I haven't seen other drugs that are like that. Drugs. And again, cannabis is bigger than that. Um, and I think that that's one thing that's important. Why we need to deschedule it. We need to completely legalize it, and people need to grow it for whatever they want to use it for. If you want to knock the blocks out of the black market, let people just grow weed. If everyone can grow as much weed as they want, do you know how fast the price would go down? Do you know how fast the cartels would be out of business? How fast these, like, douchebags driving Maseratis on the money they made from a medical dispensary. How quickly that would all go away if we could all just grow as much as we wanted to. Um, you know, I, I I'd rather just have a backyard full of weed than make money off of it. And I don't make money off of it, but potentially I could make money off of it, right? Like, I could potentially make money off of cannabis and um, uh, get rich, sell seeds for a bunch of money, whatever. I would way rather just be able to grow it. Fuck it. I just want to grow it, you know? And I don't care if it's not worth anything anymore. I'm sure my buddy Ivan, if he's come back to find me, who runs a dispensary, does not necessarily agree with this. I'm sure other people do not necessarily agree that, well, maybe it should be a market that, nah, I don't. I think we should all be able to grow as much as we can. We should be able to explore the plant, explore the phenotypes, explore the ways of ingesting it, all of that, to our heart's content. Um, and I guess this whole rant was set off about thinking about how April's connected to a nurses group, and that's very medicinally oriented. And all cannabis use is medicinal. Um, you know, uh, lavender. Having lavender sachets around your house is a medicinal thing, because if smelling the lavender makes you feel relaxed, then that is a medicinal effect. How do you separate that out from is it recreational lavender use? To burn a lavender essential oil burner in the corner of your room because it makes you feel happier. I would say that's medical. It's not recreational use of lavender. So um, I don't know. I guess I'm just ranting at this point because I'm kind of mad that my video is interrupted and blah blah blah. I'm a big baby. But I think it's something for you all to think about and consider. And what is the end game here? Do we really want to pay $60 an eighth for herb from a recreational dispensary in Missouri, or would we rather be able to grow 30 plants of 7 different varieties and several different phenotypes and find out what that is? In my mind, that's my dream spot, is to be able to grow it like any other plant. I can grow all the sunflowers I want to. I can grow whatever varieties I want in any manner that I want to, and do whatever I want to with the seeds. Why is cannabis any different? And probably because it has profound medical effects, probably because it has profound recreational effects, probably because it has profound um, you know point of view effects. So I guess that's my rant this evening. 7:41, a little early. um, oh, look, there's comments. I missed all these comments. Sorry. Now I'm just reading comments. So you guys are sitting there watching me read comments. That is terrible. Um, so I guess we're talking about pucks from the pressed pucks from rosin presses is something people are talking about. And I think that just falls into the same category. Um, Likely, if you're pressing flour into rosin, you're only getting like 70% of the external metabolites out of that puck. The real way to do it, I mean, I don't mean to say you're not doing it the real way, but the real way to do it is to either sift or use water to mechanically separate the trichome heads and then press that. So if you're pressing pucks, use those for edibles, please, because the limitation is that the vegetative material that you have in there when you rosin press it. So if people don't know what we're talking about here, you take flour, you put it under pressure and heat, and you squeeze the oil out of it. And this makes a dabbable concentrate called rosin that um, uses no solvents, solventless. It tastes delicious. It has a lot of constituents that are filtered out in other ways. But if you are pressing flour, you are losing a lot of that because it gets absorbed, especially dried flour. So you take dried flour, that is something that is hydro. What is it? Um, it wants water. It's dry, and if you take a bunch of flour that's completely dry and set it in a location that's high in humidity, that flour gets moist. Same thing happens when you squeeze the oil and all the other constituents out of it. It reabsorbs into that, and you can only squeeze it so hard. You can't get it all out of there. So I definitely would say pucks from using rosin presses on flour are probably the number one thing you want to reuse, because you've got a lot of stuff that didn't come out of there. So when you're taking the keef out and then you're pressing the keef, you're getting a much purer product and you're getting a lot higher returns, depending on your efficiency for removing the trichome heads from the plants. So that's what I would say about that. Um, Roots, yes, puck your keef. That's what I'm talking about, Teresa. Make keef and then rosin press that, and you'll be like, wow. Um, so April's asking about the roots of the cannabis plant, and that is something that is, it's tough for me to talk about because I don't remove the roots from my medium. Um, I prefer to grow in beds. I cut the plant off at the soil. I leave the rhizosphere, which is the roots and everything that surrounds them, and all the bacterias and funguses and all the beneficial things I've been cultivating in my garden, and I plant right next to it so that those bacterias and funguses, as much as they can, their populations can migrate over to my new root zone. So I know that there are beneficial medical, all sorts of things to roots, but I don't pull my roots up. I feel like that you want to leave that there, especially because a lot of the bacteria and funguses and such are they're basically stratospheric in the soil. So you uh, the ones that like the warmth of the sun and light will stay at the top. The ones that like kind of the middle section are in the middle. The ones that like the exudates from the roots the most are right around the roots. The ones that like to be at the very bottom, away from everything, in the coolest, darkest places, those all stratify. They're stratified, and when you pull the roots out, you kind of like ruin the stratification. And so I imagine you could do some kind of like growing in some kind of soilless medium, some kind of pseudo hydroponic situation where you could grow large plants, and then you could harvest the roots and clean the roots off. And that's just a whole, I want to call it a can of worms, but I don't mean it negatively like a can of worms kind of sounds. That's just a whole entire area of research that needs to be done. I bet there are medical properties, medicinal properties. I bet there are cannabinoids in different concentrations in the roots than there are above. But personally, I wouldn't know because I rarely see roots because I'm just cutting the plant off and leaving the roots in the soil. I believe that the breakdown of the roots, the nitrogen fixing that happens there, plus all the bacteria, far outweighs pulling the roots out of the ground. So I think for you, April, that is, you know, a fantastic avenue to go down. Check out the roots, see what you can do. Make tea out of the roots. Maybe it's amazing. And maybe I would decide to I would say, okay, well, I'll pull the roots out because the roots are so amazingly beneficial that I'm going to it outweighs the negative effects of disturbing the soil, pulling the roots out, and all that. But right now, my opinion is you leave the roots in the soil. You let those naturally break down. You let the bacteria and such migrate to, you know, 8 inches over to where you've planted another plant, 6 inches over, right, or right there, plant it into the rhizosphere. So only works if you have healthy soil and a healthy biological system going on. Works best in beds, but that would be my suggestion on that idea. Um, do some research for us. Write a peer-reviewed paper. Let us know what's happening because there's so little of that in cannabis that we're all just really having a lot of anecdotal information floating around. A lot of bro science. There's some science in there. I believe that bro science, actually, there's a lot of truth in it because it's from people doing things over and over and over, but it's very rare that we do things in a rigorous scientific way in our garages and basements and tents and everything. It's especially when you're smoking a lot of weed. I'll just be honest, you're not exactly like, all right, so I got everything, completely sewed up. Sometimes you're a little loose around the edges when you grow a lot of weed and smoke a lot of weed. And these recreational markets, these medical markets are changing that. You've got people that are very serious about doing this, but then where did this bro science like curing come from? There's got to be a truth to it. There's got to be some kind of truth. You're welcome, Teresa. Thank you for coming. There's got to be some kind of truth behind some of these things, and we know that curing bud makes it better if you do it right. That's true. We just don't know why. Truthfully, we don't know the answer to that. I suspect it has something to do with sugars and starches and the conversion thereof, specifically because freshly dried, super dried wheat, but well cured weed is almost spongy. Feels like there's moisture in it, even if there isn't. And to me, that indicates that there's some kind of difference in chemical makeup from slowly letting the moisture out of it over time. I don't know though. We don't have good science on this. So, April, find someone. If you yourself can't do it, find someone to study the roots because we don't have much information on the roots at all, really at all. So, it's a good idea. I've got allergies, seasonal allergies. You notice I'm a little bit. Yeah, I apologize. Um, Teresa, I absolutely agree. You can't learn enough And that's what's beautiful about this plant. If you approach it with a beginner's mind, if you go into it knowing that, I didn't know today I would learn about Delta 8 THC, but I learned about Delta 8 THC. So um, I live in Kansas too, so it's a little different thing here. I don't go to smoke shops. Um, so I just, it's a brand new thing to me. I know Clay, who was talking about this earlier. He does Evolution Magazine, and he's in and out of every venue that has anything to do with cannabis or smoke shops or anything constantly. So he really has a good finger on that pulse. So I appreciate him pointing me that direction. It's a new place to learn something new, and also the roots. Man, it's an interesting thing to me. I wonder if you could, I mean, think about this wild idea. What if you were growing cannabis plants in veg perpetually to harvest the roots off from some kind of system where the roots come down and you're trimming the roots off and harvesting those for the medicinal value, and you never actually flower those cannabis plants until some, predetermined time. I mean, so who knows? Maybe that's a possibility. Maybe you have your rhizosphere, and then you have where your roots poke out into the dark, and you're harvesting those. And it's an amazing world where you can learn constantly about something like this. So, all right, guys. Well, 7:52. I think that's about it. Unless you guys have, Nicholas is coming up next. Nicholas Gillum. He does a little more. He does a little more statistics based show. He kind of compares things, contrasts things, does more equipment reviews. I would suggest just ride the train on into his show if you got the endurance. I appreciate you all for coming out and listening to me go off. I'm sad that my video cut in the middle because I'm trying to do this YouTube thing. I guess I'll do a two-parter. I'm learning. Kind of stuck in my ways. I'm like in my mid 40s. It's hard to learn new things. It's hard to get into new like routines. I'm not saying that's good, but so I'm trying to get this on YouTube. I'm trying to get it to where more people can watch it later if they want to. I'm trying to categorize it in such a way that you can go, oh, I wanted to watch that one where he talked about this because I think I missed part of it. So I'm working on that. Also, one of these days, Stephen had asked me about merchandise. I need to get on that. God, I'm such a slacker. I'm not even smoking herb right now because of some sort of legal issues. But shows me that you blame all these things. You want to blame everything on cannabis. Like if you smoke it heavily, you're like, oh well, I was stoned. So no, I'm just a space cadet. I low motivation space cadet. So I'm working on it. We're all trying to get better. I love you all very much. I really appreciate you coming out to listen to me. Hang around. Nicholas goes live at 8 o'clock here on the Missouri Cannabis Network. Definitely some information that you can learn from his show. And I appreciate you all. And thank you for coming. I'm going to sign off now. You have a great night.